Hi, everybody. Hello, Instagram. I got my tripod set up for Instagram. So if I'm looking back and forth, it's because I'm looking between Instagram and Facebook, but I will be spending most of my attention on Facebook. So Instagram people, join me on Facebook next time. But yeah, so I wanted to do both though, because I really love how we can save the lives on Instagram now. And why not? Why not do both? Some people prefer one over the other. So yeah. Yee. Okay. So I'm Holly Tack. I'm a messaging strategist, and I am going to turn off this fan really quick because I forgot about it. Okay. All right. You guys got to see a little bit of the stuff on my desk that I was trying to hide by sitting here. Okay, so I'm Holly Tack. I'm a messaging strategist. I help women get clear on their message that they are sharing in the world with their business, and then I help them to get really good at communicating that consistently and really having it marry with their strategy. It's not just copy. It's not just writing. It's like, how can you use your message and your writing to forward your strategy, meet your goals in your business, etc., etc. So that's what I do, and this is Unicorn TV. So Unicorn TV is my twice weekly show where I share mindset, I share business tips, I share all kinds of things to support you guys in growing your business. So that's what this is all about. And I have to be honest with you. I just thought of something I didn't check. So let me, okay, cool. All right, good. So I just wanted to check that one thing. Hi, Jay. Okay, cool. So I am talking about, stories and how to write stories that sell today. And so I just need to pull up my notes, which I, of course, did not have prepped. I mean, I have them prepped, but I didn't have them pulled up. Figures, right? Figures, I think it figures. So today I'm talking about how to tell stories that will sell and that will connect with your audience. And so why do you even want to care about this? Well, we build trust with our audience by building an emotional connection with them and having them feel like, oh, even if they don't feel like this person is the same as me, they still feel a degree of this person gets me. They understand where I'm at. They understand where I've been through. And that when they feel that over and over again, they start to feel like an emotional connection with you as a service provider and with you as somebody they follow online, etc. And then, when you make an offer to them, they're way more likely to be interested in it and to want to buy it, basically. So the reason that we care about telling stories is because it's one of the best ways to build that emotional connection. And when you do it right. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to do it right, but that's what we're talking about today, and that's what we're on about today. So how do you do it? How do you actually build a story? How do you build a story to create that emotional connection with your audience? So you do that by being so the first tip is to be extremely specific in your story. So you want to act like you are telling a scene in a movie. You want to act like you're a fly on the wall, describing everything about a scene from a movie. And that's how you want to tell the story, not this high level stuff that I see a lot. You want to be really specific. So I wanted to read an example so that I could illustrate this for you. So one story, example one is, you feel overwhelmed because your boss moved up a deadline to tomorrow, even though you have a ton going on at home. That's what somebody could say. I've seen this on sales pages all the time. And sorry, I'm just going to get this set up. Thanks for bearing with me, you guys. I feel like I'm getting this double Facebook and Instagram thing on lockdown. So I appreciate your patience. Okay, So the example I said was, you feel overwhelmed because your boss moved up the deadline to tomorrow, even though you have a ton going on at home. So then another way that I could tell this is, so there's just not a lot of detail in that. Like I get, okay, you feel overwhelmed because you have a deadline tomorrow, but there's a lot going on at home too. Okay. But there's just really not a lot of detail or color to that. And it's definitely not what I described, where you're basically telling the scene of the scene of something as you like watch it in a movie. Whereas if you are more specific, then it evokes emotion in the reader. So a specific example of how I could fix this story to make it more compelling is to say, your boss just called to move up a deadline to tomorrow. The kitchen increasingly smells like burning grilled cheese, and your daughter is tugging on your apron, asking you to come view the new art she drew all over the living room wall. So here's the thing. That was it. Sorry. That's it. So that was the example. And as you can see, there's just way more detail. It's not that much longer, to be honest, but there's way more detail in that I'm saying, like, the boss still called to move up the deadline, but like, why does the person feel overwhelmed, like they have a ton going on at home? And in this example, I was clear about saying that your boss, or that you have, something burning on the stove. You have your daughter that just like drew all over the wall, and it's like you want to throw in the towel. And I feel like even if somebody doesn't have like that scenario in their life, like maybe they don't have a kid or whatever, they can still feel that feeling of overwhelm again with the more specific version of the story. So that's the main way to tell stories that are more compelling. If you can get the person to feel the feeling again, then you're winning. And so in the second example, I was able to get the reader to feel overwhelmed again. And the first example, it just doesn't really do it because there's not enough detail. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Let me know if it doesn't. Go ahead and pop a question in the questions if it doesn't. So that's my main tip that I wanted to share today. But let me just go ahead and talk about a few other things to be aware of with stories. So again, be specific. Don't worry if the details don't apply to everybody, because, if you're going to tell a story and mention that the person in the story is a mom, like that might not apply to everybody, and that's okay. But because you're being specific, the human brain, even if the person reading it is not a parent, can translate it to match, to like fit them, basically. Even though I don't work at a corporate job anymore, I don't have a boss anymore, I could still relate to that story because of all the detail, and I can't really relate to the first example. So, okay, so let me do this. I forgot I can type in on-screen updates on Facebook, which is kind of cool. So I also wanted to say, like, one thing to make sure that you're doing is to use the word you or I as sparingly as possible, because I found that if you're saying you or I a lot, it's usually an indication that you are telling what's happening and you're not really showing it with your imagery and your descriptions, etc. So if you're saying you or I a lot, that's probably an indication that you're doing that. So you should look into if you can remove it. So if we go back to our other example, it was that, I said, you feel overwhelmed because your boss moved up the deadline, but you have a ton going on at home. So I said, you feel overwhelmed. That should be a clue. Like, is that really the best way I could say that? And I determined, no, it's not. Like, it's not that descriptive to just say you feel overwhelmed. So instead, that was a sign for me to change it to help it be more specific. And so in the second example, I said, your boss called to move up a deadline tomorrow. And then I went into the explanation of why the person feels overwhelmed, like what is actually going on in their surroundings to create that. And that is what really transformed that story. So just to recap, stories are, people buy and people get to know you, and then they buy from you when you make offers, when they really feel like connected to you emotionally, whether they, thanks for asking, Ghost War LA. So I'm talking about how to write stories that sell. So how to write stories that, engage your audience to take action, buy, whatever. And so to recap, the main tip I had was to be specific versus general. And I'm going to save this recording if you want to watch it after I end it. It's available for 24 hours on Instagram, and it'll be on Facebook, my Facebook business page as well, like ongoing. So the first tip was to be specific versus general. And I talked a lot about how to do that. And then the second tip is to really pay attention to when you're using the words I or you, because those are usually indications that you might just be telling people what's going on and not actually showing them with your descriptions and your imagery and everything. And it's really in the showing that creates the emotional connection with people. So that's all I had for you today. I ended up being pretty short, which hopefully you guys don't mind. I think it was like 10 minutes. But that's all I wanted to share. I just wanted to bring light to the topic of stories, and that they really do help people to get to know you and eventually buy. So I just want to, let's see. Cool. So I just put it on the Facebook Live, the example of the general story. If you want to pause here and read it, for your own reference, you can do that. And then I'm going to put the specific story on here as well. And you can also pause it, and it kind of got cut off, but you can see the beginning of it if you want to see it. On Facebook, you can see it and pause it if you want to write it down. So, all right, that's all I wanted to share today. Remember, story showing is the tool you want to use. You want to show and not just tell people, like, you feel overwhelmed. You don't just want to say that. You want to explain like what's going on in their life that makes them feel overwhelmed, because that's what the reader can really latch onto and really like relate to in the story. So that's all I wanted to share. Hopefully it helps you, serves you, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. And I will talk to you guys later. Thank you. Bye.